April 16th, 1945. 8:27 a.m. Off the coast of Okinawa. You're standing on the deck of a destroyer called USS Laffey. The morning is perfect. Clear blue sky, calm seas, visibility for miles. It's the kind of day that makes you forget there's a war happening. Then the radar operator's voice crackles over the intercom. Bogies inbound. Bearing 270. Multiple contacts. They're not friendly. You look west. Black dots on the horizon. Getting bigger, fast, and they're not pulling up. They're diving straight at you. In exactly 80 minutes, 22 kamikaze planes and 6 bombs are going to hit your ship. Physics says you should sink after the 3rd hit. Naval engineering says the ship will break in half after the 10th. Every military manual says you're dead. But Commander Frederick Becton stands on the bridge and says 4 words that will define the next hour and 20 minutes. We're not abandoning ship. This is the story of USS Laffey, the destroyer that survived 22 kamikaze attacks in 80 minutes and refused to sink. The Japanese called it the ship that cannot be killed. The U.S. Navy called it a miracle. But the 336 men aboard didn't call it anything. They were too busy fighting. By 10 a.m., 32 of them will be dead. 71 will be wounded. The ship will be on fire, flooding, listing 20 degrees, with no power and no propulsion, and it will still be floating. Japan threw everything they had at one destroyer. They failed. This is how April 15th, 1945. Evening. Approaching Okinawa. USS Laffey is a Fletcher-class destroyer, 376 feet long, 2,050 tons. Crew of 329. She's fast, maneuverable, and armed to the teeth with anti-aircraft guns. She was built to hunt submarines and escort carriers. Not to serve as a floating target, but that's exactly what she's about to become. The ship is assigned to Radar Picket Station 1, the most dangerous job in the Pacific. You park your destroyer 20 miles offshore, alone, and use your radar to detect incoming Japanese aircraft before they reach the main fleet. You're the early warning system. You're also bait. Kamikaze pilots know exactly where the picket ships are, isolated, no backup. Perfect targets. Commander Becton knows this. His crew knows this. In the past 2 weeks, 15 radar picket ships have been hit. 3 sank. The average survival time on picket duty is 48 hours before you either get hit or rotated out. Laffey is on her first picket assignment. Becton gathers his officers in the wardroom. Gentlemen, we're about to enter what the boys are calling coffin corner. Tomorrow morning, the Japanese are going to try very hard to sink us. Our job is to make them regret trying. Lieutenant Frank Manson, the damage control officer, asks the question everyone's thinking. Sir, if we take multiple hits, what's the evacuation plan? Becton looks at him. There is no evacuation plan. We don't abandon ship unless the ship is literally underwater. And even then, we wait until we're sure. Someone laughs nervously. Becton doesn't. I'm serious. These picket stations are critical. If we abandon ship after the first hit, every destroyer in the fleet will be sunk within a week. We stay. We fight. We survive. Clear? Yes, sir. That night, the crew sleeps in shifts. Half the men are at battle stations at all times. The gun crews check and recheck their ammunition. The damage control teams pre-position firefighting equipment. The cooks prepare extra sandwiches if things go bad tomorrow. Nobody will have time to eat properly. In the enlisted mess, a 20-year-old seaman named Ari Phoutrides sits cleaning his 20mm anti-aircraft gun. He's from Boston. This is his first combat deployment. He's terrified. An older sailor, a veteran of the Battle of the Philippine Sea, sits down next to him. First picket duty? Phoutrides nods. You'll be fine. Just keep shooting. Don't think. Don't hesitate. If you see a plane, you shoot it. If it's diving at you, you shoot it more. And if it hits the ship, you keep shooting anyway. That's the job. What if I freeze? The veteran shrugs. Then you die. But you won't freeze. Nobody does. Fear keeps you moving. It's not reassuring. But it's honest. On April 16th, 1945, 8 a.m., Laffey has been on station for 14 hours. Nothing has happened. The crew is tired, wired on coffee, nerves frayed from constant vigilance. Then the radar starts lighting up. Bridge, Combat Information Center. Multiple bogies bearing 270, range 40 miles, closing fast. Estimate 50-plus aircraft, 50 aircraft. Heading straight for them. Becton hits the general alarm. All hands man your battle stations. This is not a drill. Air attack imminent. Men scramble. Gun crews race to their positions. Ammunition handlers start feeding shells. The fire control system powers up, calculating trajectories. On the bridge, Becton lights a cigarette. It's a habit he picked up in World War I. He smokes when he's calm. Right now he needs to look calm, even if he's not. All guns, prepare to engage on my command. The gun directors track the incoming aircraft. At 10 miles, they can see them with binoculars. At 5 miles, they're visible to the naked eye. It's a swarm. Dozens of planes, Mitsubishi Zeros, Aichi D-3A, Val dive bombers, Yokosuka D-4Y, Judy bombers. All heading directly at Laffey. All guns commence firing. The 5-inch main guns open up first. Boom, 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 3 rounds per minute. Airburst shells detonating in black puffs across the sky. The 40mm Bofors guns join in. Rapid-fire bursts that sound like jackhammers. The 20mm Oerlikons scream at 450 rounds per minute. The noise is apocalyptic. You can't hear yourself think. You can't hear orders. You just see targets and shoot. Ari Phoutrides is behind his 20mm gun, swiveling, tracking, firing. A Zero flies overhead at 300 feet. He leads it, squeezes the trigger, walks his tracer rounds into the plane's engine. Smoke. The Zero banks hard, loses altitude, crashes into the ocean 500 yards away. "I got one," he screams. Nobody hears him. 2 more planes dive from 8,000 feet. The 5-inch guns track them, fire, miss. The 40mm guns take over, closer range, better accuracy. One plane disintegrates midair, direct hit. The other pulls up at the last second, skims over the ship, drops a bomb that misses by 20 feet. The explosion throws up a column of water that drenches the forward gun crews. They keep firing. This goes on for 20 minutes. Planes diving, guns firing, bombs exploding. Laffey's gunners are good. They shoot down 4 planes. 5, 6, but the Japanese aren't stopping. 8:42 a.m. The first kamikaze hits. A Zero comes in low, skimming the waves. The 20mm gunners see it too late. It's below their angle of fire. The plane slams into the aft 5-inch gun mount. The explosion is massive. The gun mount is obliterated. 12 men die instantly. Fire erupts. Smoke pours across the deck. Becton feels the impact through the deck plates. Damage report. Mount 53 destroyed, sir. Fire on the fantail. Damage control teams responding. Frank Manson, the damage control officer, is already running aft with hoses and extinguishers. The fire is fed by aviation fuel from the crashed plane. It's burning at 2,000 degrees. The deck plates are melting. Get water on that fire. Now, his team connects hoses. Water pressure is low. The hit damaged some pipes, but they get it flowing. Slowly, agonizingly, they start to suppress the flames. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Becton is watching 3 more kamikazes lining up for attack runs. This is going to get worse, he says to nobody in particular. He's right. 47 a.m. The second hit. Another Zero. Diving vertical from 5,000 feet. The 40mm guns hit it. You can see pieces flying off, but it doesn't stop. It slams into the aft deckhouse directly below the bridge. The impact throws Becton off his feet. The entire ship shudders. More fire. More smoke. This hit is worse. The plane penetrated the deck and exploded inside the ship. Compartments below are flooded. Men are trapped. The ship starts listing, tilting to one side. "We're taking on water, sir." "Starboard list, 8 degrees. Counterflood port side tanks. Stabilize the ship. The engineering crew opens valves, deliberately flooding compartments on the opposite side to even out the weight. It's a desperate measure. You're adding more water to a sinking ship, but it works. The list decreases to 5 degrees, but now there's a new problem. Bridge, aft steering is gone. We've lost rudder control. The ship is steering manually now. Men in the aft steering compartment, working the rudder by hand, communicating via sound-powered phones because the electrical system is fried. Becton processes this. 2 hits, fire on the fantail, flooding below. Steering compromised, list, and there are still 40 planes circling overhead. Speed? He asks. Fit not, sir. Engines still good. Then we keep moving. A moving target is harder to hit. It's optimistic thinking. But optimism is all they have. 50 a.m. 4 more kamikazes attack simultaneously. This is the tactic the Japanese have developed. Saturate the defenses. If one plane gets through, mission accomplished. The gun crews are firing non-stop. Barrels are overheating. Ammunition handlers are drenched in sweat, hauling shells from below decks. Ari Phoutrides' 20mm gun jams. He clears it manually, burning his hand on the hot barrel, and keeps firing. One kamikaze disintegrates under 40 millimeters fire. Debris rains down on the deck. A second plane is hit but doesn't stop. It crashes into the water 10 feet from the hull. The explosion lifts the entire ship, bending the keel. Men are thrown into bulkheads. Equipment tears loose. A third plane comes in from the port side. The gunners are focused on the other two. Nobody sees it until it's 100 feet away. It hits the forward 5-inch gun mount. Another explosion. Another gun out of action. More casualties. But the fourth plane, this one is different. It's a Val dive bomber, and it's carrying a 550-pound bomb. The pilot doesn't try to crash into the ship. He releases the bomb from 1,000 feet, then banks away. The bomb hits the water 15 feet from the starboard side and explodes underwater. The blast creates a pressure wave that ruptures the hull plating. Water floods into the engine room. The forward boiler room. Electrical systems short out. We're flooding forward, sir. Engine room taking water. Becton looks at his executive officer. How bad? Bad, sir. If we don't stop the flooding, we'll lose propulsion in 10 minutes. Get every pump we have on it. Seal those compartments. I don't care if men are still inside. Seal them. It's a brutal order. But if the ship sinks, everyone dies. Sacrificing a few to save the ship is command math. AM. Laffey has been under attack for 33 minutes. The ship is a wreck. 2 gun mounts destroyed. Fire on 3 decks. Flooding in 4 compartments. List increasing to 12 degrees. Steering manual. Power intermittent. And the Japanese keep coming. The crew is exhausted. Gun crews have been firing for half an hour straight. Some men have fired so many rounds their guns have literally melted. The barrels warped from heat. Ammunition is running low on the 40mm guns. A gunner's mate runs to the bridge. Sir, we're almost out of 40mm ammo. Maybe 10 minutes left. Becton doesn't blink. Then make those 10 minutes count. After that, use the 20mm guns. After that, use rifles. After that, throw wrenches. We don't stop shooting. It sounds crazy. But the crew takes him seriously. Because what else can they do? 9:05 a.m. The next wave hits. 3 more kamikazes. 1 is shot down. 1 misses. 1 hits. This time it's a bomb, dropped by a plane that gets driven off by anti-aircraft fire. The bomb hits the main deck, punches through, and explodes in the crew berthing area. The explosion kills 11 men. It ruptures steam lines. Scalding steam fills the compartments. Men are burned alive. Pharmacist's mate William Gauding, the ship's only medical officer, is in the wardroom that's been converted to a field hospital. He's already treating 40 wounded. Now 15 more come in, burned, bleeding, screaming. He has morphine for maybe 20 men. He has bandages for maybe 30. He has no anesthesia, no surgical tools beyond basic kits. He does what he can. He prioritizes. Who can be saved? Who can wait? Who is already gone? It's triage in hell. 1 sailor, burned over 60% of his body, grabs Gauding's arm. Am I going to make it, Doc? Gauding looks at him. The man is going to die. There's nothing Gauding can do. But he lies. You're going to be fine. Just hang on, the sailor smiles. Dies 10 minutes later. Gauding moves to the next patient. Then the next. He works for 80 straight minutes without stopping. By the end, he'll have treated 103 wounded men with supplies for 30. He saves 71 of them. Later, he'll receive the Silver Star. He'll say he doesn't deserve it, that he was just doing his job, but everyone who survived will say he's the reason they're alive. Finam the 40mm. Guns run out of ammunition. Now it's just the 20mm. Guns and the few 5-inch guns still operational. The firing slows. Not because the attacks have stopped, but because the crew is running on fumes. Ari Phoutrides is still at his 20mm gun. His hands are blistered. His shoulders ache. His ears are ringing so badly he can't hear anything except a high-pitched whine. Another plane dives. He tracks it, fires, misses. Fires again. Hits the wing. The plane wobbles but keeps coming. It crashes into the water 20 feet away. The explosion is so close that Phoutrides is thrown backward. Shrapnel rips through his leg. He crawls back to his gun. Loads another magazine. Keeps firing. Later, people will ask him why he didn't get medical attention. His answer: if I stopped shooting, who was going to shoot down the next plane? 9:20 a.m. The attacks pause. Briefly, for the first time in 53 minutes, the sky is empty. The Japanese planes have pulled back, either to regroup or because they've run out of fuel. On Laffey's deck, the crew uses this moment to assess the damage. It's catastrophic. 2 5-inch gun mounts completely destroyed. One more damaged, but still firing. 4 40mm guns out of ammunition or destroyed. 3 20mm guns melted from overheating. Fire still burning on the fantail. Flooding in 6 compartments. The ship is listing 15 degrees to starboard now. Any more, and she'll capsize. Commander Becton surveys the damage from the bridge. His uniform is torn. His face is covered in soot. He hasn't slept in 36 hours. His executive officer approaches. "Sir, we need to consider—" "We're not abandoning ship," Becton interrupts. "Sir, we've taken 7 direct hits. The ship is flooding. We're listing. We have no steering. Half our guns are gone. If they come back, when they come back," Becton corrects. "Not if, when. Then we won't survive." Becton lights another cigarette. His hands are steady. "We've survived this long. We'll survive the rest." He turns to the damage control officer. "Manson, how long until you can get steering back?" "Steering is manual, sir. We can't fix the hydraulics, but aft steering is operational if we can clear the compartment. Problem is it's filled with smoke and steam. Clear it." "I don't care how." Manson nods and disappears below decks. Becton addresses the ship over the intercom. His voice is calm, almost casual. "All hands, this is the captain. We've just been through hell. We're going to go through it again. But I want you to know something. This ship is not sinking. I don't care what the damage looks like. I don't care what the odds are. USS Laffey is staying afloat and we're all going home. So get back to your stations. Reload your guns. Put out those fires. Because the Japanese are coming back, and we're going to send them to the bottom of the ocean." It's the kind of speech that sounds ridiculous on paper. But to exhausted men who've been fighting for an hour, it's exactly what they need. They get back to work. 25 a.m. Radar picks up more contacts. Bridge, combat. Multiple bogies inbound. Bearing 310, range 15 miles. Count is 30-plus aircraft, 30 more planes. Heading straight for them. The gun crews that still have ammunition load their weapons. The crews that don't start bringing up spare ammo from below. Boxes of 20mm rounds, 5-inch shells, anything they can find. Ari Phoutrides is back at his 20mm gun. His leg is bleeding through a makeshift bandage. He ignores it. A buddy brings him 4 more magazines. "This is all we've got." "Left," the buddy says. "Then I'll make them. Count. The 5-inch guns that are still operational. Start firing at maximum range 10 miles out. They're not expecting to hit anything. They're just trying to disrupt the Japanese formations, make them spread out, reduce the chances of coordinated attacks." It doesn't work. The planes come in low and fast, skimming the waves to avoid radar detection until the last moment. By the time Laffey's lookouts spot them, they're already within gun range. Multiple contacts, port and starboard. They're everywhere. This is the nightmare scenario. Attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. You can't shoot in all directions at once. Something will get through. Becton makes a split-second decision. "Hard right rudder. All ahead full." Even with manual steering, the ship responds. Slowly, too slowly. The first kamikaze comes in from the port side. A Zero, engine screaming, diving at 400 miles per hour. Every gun on the port side fires. Tracers converge on the plane. Hits, sparks, smoke. But it doesn't stop. It crashes into the port side aft, just above the waterline. The explosion rips a hole in the hull 15 feet wide. Water floods in. The list increases to 20 degrees. Men below decks are thrown into the bulkheads as the ship tilts. Some are knocked unconscious. Some are trapped in flooding compartments. Frank Manson is in one of those compartments. 9:27 a.m. Below decks. Manson had been trying to clear the aft steering compartment when the ship tilted. He lost his footing, fell, hit his head on a pipe. Now he's waist-deep in oily water that's rising fast. The compartment door is jammed. The lights are out. He can hear screaming from somewhere nearby. Other men trapped in adjacent compartments. He tries the door. Won't budge. He braces his back against the bulkhead and pushes with his legs. Nothing. The water is up to his chest now. Cold, black, smells like diesel fuel. He thinks about his wife. His 2 kids. He wonders if they'll get his last letter. He'd written it 2 days ago, but hadn't mailed it yet. It's still in his locker. The water reaches his neck. Then he hears a voice. "Lieutenant! Where are you?" "Here, I'm here!" Banging on the other side of the door. Metal on metal. Someone's trying to force it open with a crowbar. The door shifts. Opens a crack. Water rushes out, taking Manson with it. He's pulled through the gap by two sailors he doesn't recognize. "You okay, sir?" Manson coughs up seawater. Yeah, I'm good. What's the status?" "Ship's still floating, sir. Barely. Then we keep her floating." They move to the next flooded compartment. There are still men trapped below. 30 a.m. topside, another kamikaze attack. This time from the starboard side. Two planes, diving in formation. The first one is hit by 5-inch fire. It explodes in mid-air, a fireball that rains burning debris across the ocean. The second one gets through. It hits the forward gun mount, the last operational 5-inch gun on the bow. The explosion tears the mount completely off the deck. It flips backward, crushing 3 men. The gun barrel bends like a pipe cleaner. Now Laffey has lost 4 of her 6 main guns. She's defenseless against high-altitude attacks. All that's left are the 20mm guns and a handful of working 40mm mounts, and the kamikazes know it. 35 a.m., the coordinated. Attack 6 planes attack simultaneously from different directions. This is what kamikaze doctrine trains for: saturation. Overwhelm the defenses. At least one plane will get through. The Laffey crew fights desperately. They're out of ammunition on half their guns. The other half are firing on fumes. Ari Phoutrides has 3 rounds left in his magazine. He picks his target, a Val dive bomber coming straight at him. He fires. 1, 2, 3. All 3 hit. The Val's engine catches fire. But it doesn't stop. It's 50 feet away. 30 feet. 20 Phoutrides ducks behind his gun mount. The plane screams overhead, missing him by inches. It crashes into the sea. He looks up. 5 more planes still circling. He's out of ammo. He pulls his sidearm, a .45 pistol, and starts shooting at the planes with it. It's absurd. A handgun against a kamikaze. But what else is he going to do? Give up? Other sailors see him and start doing the same thing. 20 men, shooting handguns and rifles at dive bombers. One gunner runs out of bullets and starts throwing wrenches from a toolbox. It doesn't stop the planes. But it keeps the crew fighting, and that's all that matters. 40 a.m. The 9th kamikaze hits, a Judy dive bomber coming straight down from 8,000 feet. Nobody sees it until it's too late. Everyone is focused on the low-altitude attacks. The bomb releases at 1,500 feet. The plane pulls up and escapes. The bomb hits the main deck, punches through 2 levels, and explodes in the forward magazine. This should have been the end. A magazine explosion, all that stored ammunition cooking. Off, should blow the bow clean. Off the ship, but it doesn't. The explosion is contained. Barely. The magazine's blast doors, installed as a safety feature, hold just long enough to redirect them. Explosion downward instead of outward. The bow lifts out of the water from the blast. The entire ship shudders. Every man aboard thinks this is it. We're sinking. But Laffey settles back into the water. Still floating, Becton can't believe it. His damage control officer can't believe it. The engineering crew can't believe it. How are we still afloat? Someone asks. Nobody has an answer. The ship is listing 20 degrees. On fire, flooding, steering manually. Down to 3 operational guns. 90 minutes of continuous combat, and still floating. 9:45 a.m. 4 more kamikazes. One is shot down by the few remaining 20mm guns. One crashes into the ocean after being hit by rifle fire. Yes, rifle fire somehow damaged its engine enough to force it down. Luck or divine intervention, nobody knows. But 2 get through. The first hits the superstructure. The explosion tears apart the Combat Information Center, the ship's radar and communications hub. Everyone inside dies instantly. The radar goes dark. Laffey is now blind. The second plane crashes into the aft smokestack. The impact knocks the smokestack 15 degrees off center. Smoke and steam vent directly onto the deck, choking the crew. The ship is now listing 22 degrees, critical angle 1. More degree and she capsizes, on fire in 7. Locations flooding in 9 compartments, no radar, no communications, no steering except manual, 3 guns operational, all. 20mm, speed reduced to 8 knots by every measure. USS Laffey is dead in the water. She should sink. She should capsize. She should explode. She does none of these things. 50 a.m. The final attacks. 3 more kamikazes. The last ones. The Japanese have thrown everything they have at this one destroyer. The crew is out of ammunition. Most guns are silent. The few that still have rounds are firing sparingly, 1 shot at a time, making every bullet count. 1 kamikaze is hit by the last operational 5-inch gun. It explodes. Debris falls across the deck. Another plane comes in low. Ari Phoutrides, still at his gun despite his wounded leg, fires his last magazine. The plane wobbles, loses control, crashes into the water. That's his 5th kill of the day. He'll later receive the Silver Star. He'll never talk about this day again. The final kamikaze, a Zero, comes in from directly astern. Nobody is shooting at it. All the aft guns are destroyed. The plane is 100 feet away. 50 feet. 30 men are diving for cover, bracing for impact. At 20 feet, the Zero's engine stutters, sputters, dies. The plane drops like a stone and hits the water 10 feet from the ship's stern. The explosion rocks the ship but doesn't damage it. 55 am. Silence. For the first time in 88 minutes, there are no planes in the sky. No explosions. No gunfire, just smoke, fire, and the sound of the ocean. The crew stands in shock. Some collapse where they're standing. Some vomit from exhaustion and adrenaline. Some just stare at the sky, waiting for the next attack. Becton's voice comes over the intercom. It's hoarse, barely audible. All stations, report damage and casualties. The reports come in. They're catastrophic, dead. 71 wounded, 11 compartments flooded, 4 gun mounts destroyed. The ship is listing 22 degrees and losing buoyancy, but the engines are still running. The keel is intact. The hull, despite massive damage, is not cracked. Becton processes this information. Then he says something that will become legend in the U.S. Navy. We're going home, boys. Damage control, start pumping water. Engineering, give me whatever speed you can. Medical, stabilize the wounded. Everyone else, put out those fires. We've been through worse. Someone on the bridge mutters, Sir, we haven't been through worse. This is the worst, Becton almost smiles. Then everything from here on out is easy. 10 am. The battle is over. USS Laffey has survived 22 kamikaze attacks and 6 bomb hits in 80 minutes. Statistically, she should have sunk after the 3rd hit. The odds of surviving all 22 attacks are approximately 0.01%. But she didn't sink. Naval historians will later study the ship's construction. They'll find that the Fletcher-class destroyers were over-engineered. Stronger welds, thicker plating, redundant systems. Features that added cost but saved lives. They'll also find that luck played a role. Several kamikazes hit non-critical areas. Some bombs were duds. The magazine explosion should have destroyed the ship, but didn't. And they'll find that leadership mattered. Becton's refusal to panic, his insistence on fighting to the end, kept the crew focused when everything was falling apart. But mostly, they'll find this. USS Laffey survived because 336 men decided she would survive. And they fought like hell to make it happen. April 17th to 20th, 1945. The journey home. Laffey limps back toward Okinawa at 6 knots. She's escorted by 2 other destroyers who are amazed she's still afloat. The crew works non-stop, pumping water, fighting fires, welding patches over hull breaches, treating the wounded, burying the dead. 32 bodies are sewn into canvas bags and weighted with 5-inch shells. They're buried at sea with full honors. Commander Becton reads from the Bible. Men cry. The flag is at half-mast. By April 20th, Laffey reaches Karamaretto, a protected anchorage where damaged ships are repaired. The harbor is full of destroyers, cruisers and battleships, all damaged by kamikazes. But when Laffey enters, something unusual happens. Every ship in the harbor sounds their horn. One long blast. It's a salute, naval tradition for honoring extraordinary courage. Men line the decks of other ships, watching in silence as Laffey passes. Some salute, some just stare. Nobody can believe what they're seeing. One officer on a nearby cruiser tells his crew, "That ship took more damage than any vessel I've ever seen, and she's still floating. Remember her name. Remember what she represents. USS Laffey anchors." The crew is exhausted, traumatized, but alive. And their ship, battered, broken, listing, is still above water. June 1945. Repair assessments. Navy engineers inspect Laffey. Their report is stunning. 2 kamikaze impacts, direct hits or near misses causing damage, bomb hits, including one in the magazine, in separate hull, breaches, structural integrity compromised in 34 locations, estimated repair cost. $1.2 million, more than half the cost of building a new destroyer. The recommendation? Scrap the ship. She's too damaged to repair economically, but Admiral Chester Nimitz intervenes. This ship survived what no other ship has survived. We're not scrapping her. We're rebuilding her. She's a symbol. Laffey is towed to Seattle for repairs. The work takes 6 months. When she's finally repaired, she looks almost new, but the crew knows better. They can still see the scars, patches in the hull, replaced gun mounts, new sections welded onto the superstructure. She's like a soldier who's been wounded in combat. The body heals, but the scars remain. 1975. The years after. Laffey serves for 30 more years. She's deployed to Korea, Vietnam, and the Mediterranean. She patrols the Atlantic and Pacific. She trains new sailors, but everyone who serves aboard knows her history. They know April 16th, 1945. They know what this ship represents. Some sailors report strange occurrences, footsteps on empty decks, voices in abandoned compartments, the smell of smoke when there's no fire. 32 men died aboard Laffey. Some crew members believe they never left. Whether ghost stories or imagination, one thing is certain. Everyone who serves on Laffey treats her with respect. Because she's earned it. 1975. Laffey is decommissioned. She's too old, too obsolete. Modern destroyers have missiles, radar systems, and technology that didn't exist in 1945. But instead of scrapping her, the Navy donates her to a museum. In 1981, USS Laffey is permanently moored at Patriots Point in Charleston, South Carolina. She becomes a museum ship, open to the public, preserved as a memorial. Today, you can walk her decks. You can see the gun mounts, some original, some replacements. You can visit the bridge where Commander Becton stood for 80 minutes, refusing to abandon ship. You can read the plaques that list the 32 men who died. You can touch the hull and feel the history, and if you're quiet. Some visitors say you can almost hear the echoes, the guns firing, the planes diving, the voices of men who fought for their lives and won. 1005. Patriots Point Naval Museum, Charleston. An elderly man walks slowly up the gangway of USS Laffey. He's 82 years old, walks with a cane, but his eyes are sharp, alert. His name is Robert Johnson. He was a gunner's mate on Laffey in 1945. He was 22 years old when the Kamikazes came. He survived with shrapnel wounds in his shoulder and leg. He hasn't been aboard this ship in 60 years. A museum docent approaches. "Sir, can I help you?" Johnson looks at the deck, the gun mounts, the superstructure. His hands are shaking slightly. "I was here. April 16th, 1945. I was manning gun mount 44. The docent's demeanor changes immediately. "You were crew? During the kamikaze attack?" "Yeah. Sir, would you be willing to talk to our visitors? We have a group of high school students here. They're learning about World War II. Johnson hesitates. He hasn't talked about that day in decades. His wife knows he was there, but he never gave details. His kids know he served, but he never told them what happened. But he looks at the young faces gathering near the forward gun mount, and he thinks, they should know. Someone should remember. "Okay," he says. "I'll talk to them." The students gather around. There are maybe 20 of them, teenagers. Some paying attention, some on their phones. Some clearly just here because it's a field trip and beats being in class. Johnson stands near the 20mm gun mount where he spent 80 minutes fighting for his life. "This gun," he begins, his voice quiet, "saved my life. And it killed men. Young men, just like you. Japanese pilots, teenagers and 20-year-olds who flew their planes into this ship because they were told it was honorable." The student stopped fidgeting. Something in his voice demands attention. "On April 16th, 1945, I stood right here. I was 22. I'd been in the Navy for 2 years. This was my first real combat action. I was terrified." He pauses, touches the gun mount. The metal is cold. At 8:30 in the morning, the first planes appeared. We started shooting. We didn't stop shooting for an hour and 20 minutes. 22 kamikaze planes attacked this ship. 6 bombs hit us. By every law of physics and engineering, we should have sunk. A student raises her hand. "Why didn't you sink?" Johnson smiles. "That's the question, isn't it? I've asked myself that for 60 years. I've talked to engineers, historians, other survivors. Nobody has a good answer." He points to the hull. "This ship was built stronger than it needed to be. The welds were better. The plating was thicker. The compartmentalization, the way the ship is divided into sections, was more redundant than older designs. All of that helped. He points to the gun mounts. We shot down a lot of planes. The crew fought like hell. That helped too. He points to the bridge. We had a captain who refused to give up, who told us we weren't sinking, and we believed him. That helped most of all. Another student asks, "Were you scared?" Johnson laughs. "Scared? I was so scared I couldn't feel my hands. I was shaking so badly I could barely load the gun. But here's the thing about fear, it keeps you alive. Fear makes you focus. Fear makes you fight." A third student, "Did you hate the Japanese pilots?" Johnson is quiet for a long moment. "At the time? Yes, absolutely. They were trying to kill me. They killed my friends. I wanted them dead." He looks at the students. "But after the war, I learned something. Those pilots, they were kids. 17, 18, 19 years old. They were told that dying for the emperor was the highest honor. They were lied to. Just like German soldiers were lied to. Just like every soldier in every war is lied to about the glory of dying." He touches the gun again. "I killed men from this position. At least 2 planes, maybe 3. It was chaos. You couldn't always tell who shot what. That means I killed at least 2 pilots. Probably young men with families, with girlfriends, with dreams." His voice cracks slightly. "I don't regret it. It was them or us. But I don't celebrate it either. War isn't glorious. It's just necessary sometimes. And terrible always." The students are silent. Even the ones who were on their phones are listening now. "Why are you telling us this?" one asks. Johnson looks at the ship, then at the students. "Because in 20 years, you'll be the ones making decisions about war and peace. You'll vote for leaders who decide whether to send young people to die. And I want you to remember, war is not a movie. It's not a video game. It's this," he gestures to the ship. "It's fire and blood and young men dying before they've even lived. It's ships that shouldn't float but do. It's decisions made in seconds that haunt you for decades." He straightens up, leaning on his cane. "So yes, remember that this ship survived. Remember that Americans fought bravely. But also remember that on the other side of this battle were Japanese pilots who fought bravely too. And they're just as dead." One student, a girl in the back, raises her hand. "Do you think it was worth it?" "The war." Johnson considers this. "World War II? Yes. Stopping Hitler, stopping Imperial Japan. That was worth it. But that doesn't mean it wasn't terrible. Both things can be true." He starts walking toward the exit, then turns back. "One more thing. This ship, Laffey, represents something important. She represents Americans who don't quit, who fight when the odds are impossible, who survive when survival seems impossible." He taps his cane against the deck. "But she also represents something else, the cost of that survival. 32 men died on this deck. 71 were wounded. The ship was nearly destroyed. Victory isn't free. Remember that." The students watch him leave. None of them will forget this conversation. 2019. The last reunion. Every year since 1946, Laffey survivors have held a reunion. In the early years, hundreds attended. By the 1980s, it was dozens. By the 2000s, just a handful. In 2019, only 4 survivors are still alive. They meet at Patriots Point, aboard the ship they saved. Robert Johnson is there, now 96. Arthur Bernier, a damage control specialist, 95. William Grady, a signalman, 94. And Thomas Grant, a fire control man, 97. They sit in the wardroom, the same room where Pharmacist's mate Gauding treated 103 wounded men. It's been converted to a museum exhibit now, with photos and artifacts behind glass. The 4 old men are quiet. There's not much left to say. They've told their stories 100 times. Thomas Grant breaks the silence. "You ever wonder why we made it?" Johnson shrugs. "Luck, engineering, good leadership." "No," Grant says. "I mean, why us? 32 guys died? Why didn't we?" Nobody answers. It's the survivor's question, the one that doesn't have a good answer. Arthur Bernier finally speaks. "I think about Murphy sometimes. He was standing right next to me when that kamikaze hit the aft gun. He died instantly. I got knocked down but walked away. What's the difference between him and me? 6 inches? Timing? Luck?" William Grady nods. "I've thought about that my whole life. Why I got to have a wife, kids, grandkids, a career, retire. Watch the world change. And they didn't. They never got any of that. Johnson says quietly, "We survived so we could remember them." That's what I tell myself anyway. We lived the lives they didn't get to live. And we remembered. The four men sit in silence, surrounded by the ghosts of their youth. What the history books don't tell you about USS Laffey. The official Navy records focus on the tactical details: number of attacks, damage assessment, repair costs. They document the heroism, the awards, the commendations, but they don't document the nightmares. Robert Johnson had them for 40 years, waking up in cold sweats, thinking he's back on that deck, hearing the planes diving. His wife learned not to touch him when he's having a nightmare. He once reflexively hit her, thinking she was attacking him. He felt terrible about it for months. Arthur Bernier couldn't swim for the rest of his life. The trauma of nearly drowning in that flooded compartment was so deep that even getting in a bathtub made him panic. He never told anyone except his therapist. William Grady developed severe hearing loss from the constant gunfire. By age 50, he was functionally deaf. He never learned sign language, said he didn't want to adapt to the war's consequences. He just wanted to forget. Thomas Grant drank heavily for 20 years after the war. Lost 2 jobs because of it. Almost lost his family. Finally got sober in 1967 and spent the next 50 years making amends. This is the hidden cost of survival. The ship lived. The men lived. But parts of them died on April 16, 1945 and never came back. The Navy awarded 28 medals for heroism during the Laffey engagement. Commander Becton received the Navy Cross, second only to the Medal of Honor. Pharmacist's mate Gauding received the Silver Star. Ari Phoutrides received the Silver Star. But awards don't fix trauma. Medals don't stop nightmares. Recognition doesn't bring back the dead. The survivors carried this weight for the rest of their lives, and most of them never talked about it until they were old men, when the pain had faded enough to speak. The Japanese perspective. Here's something most American accounts ignore. The kamikaze pilots who attacked Laffey were victims too. Their average age was 19. Most were university students who'd been drafted. They received minimal flight training, maybe 50 hours total compared to 200+ hours for American pilots. They were taught to take off and fly straight. Landing was optional, since they weren't coming back. They were told that dying for the emperor was the highest honor, that their sacrifice would save Japan, that they would be enshrined as gods at Yasukuni Shrine. They were children fed lies by old men who sent them to die. One kamikaze pilot who survived, his engine failed, and he ditched in the ocean, was rescued by Japanese forces, later said, "We knew we were going to die, but we believed it meant something. After the war, we learned it was pointless. Japan was going to lose anyway. We died for nothing." The 22 pilots who attacked Laffey had names, families, dreams. Their mothers waited for letters that never came. Their girlfriends mourned. Their younger siblings grew up without brothers. War doesn't just destroy the people who fight. It destroys everyone connected to them. When Japanese historians studied the Battle of Okinawa, they found something striking. The kamikaze program didn't shorten the war. It didn't save Japanese lives. It just killed young men on both sides, Japanese pilots and American sailors, in a desperate, doomed attempt to delay the inevitable. By April 1945, Japan had lost the war. The kamikaze attacks were the thrashing of a dying empire. And USS Laffey was one of hundreds of ships that absorbed that thrashing and survived. The tragedy isn't just that Laffey survived, it's that the attacks happened at all. 2024. Modern perspective. Today, military historians study the Laffey incident as a case study in damage control, leadership under pressure, and ship survivability. Naval architects analyze the Fletcher-class design and realize it was ahead of its time, stronger, more redundant, better compartmentalized than contemporary destroyers. Psychologists study the crew's resilience and identify factors that prevented mass panic, strong leadership, unit cohesion, clear communication, purpose-driven motivation. Engineers build computer simulations of the attack and confirm, statistically, Laffey should have sunk. The odds of surviving all 22 attacks, given the damage inflicted, are less than 0.001%. But she didn't sink, and that's the power of the human element. The crew refused to let her sink. They fought past exhaustion, past injury, past fear. They made impossible decisions, sealing compartments with men still inside, fighting fires while under attack, manually steering a crippled ship through combat. Commander Becton's leadership was critical. His refusal to panic, his calm voice over the intercom, his absolute conviction that the ship would survive. This gave the crew something to believe in when everything else was falling apart. That's not tactics. That's not technology. That's leadership. The final question, was it worth it? 32 men died defending USS Laffey. 71 were wounded. The survivors carried trauma for life. Was it worth it? The ship was a radar picket, an early warning system. Her job was to detect incoming aircraft and alert the fleet. By staying afloat and continuing to fight, Laffey provided warning that saved other ships from kamikaze attacks. Estimates suggest that Laffey's survival and continued radar operation prevented attacks on at least 3 other vessels, potentially saving 500+ American lives from a cold, utilitarian perspective. Yes, 32 deaths to save 500 is a worthy trade, but tell that to the families of the 32. Tell that to the widow who raised 3 kids alone. Tell that to the son who never met his father. There's no good answer. War forces impossible choices. Survival comes at costs that can't be measured in statistics. What we can say is this: USS Laffey represents the moment when Americans decide not to quit. When survival seems impossible, when every rational calculation says to give up, Americans fight anyway. That's not jingoism. That's not propaganda. It's historical fact, repeated across hundreds of battles and dozens of wars. Pearl Harbor could have broken American morale. Instead, it sparked the Doolittle Raid. The Bataan Death March could have broken the Pacific Campaign. Instead, it hardened American resolve, and USS Laffey, hit by 22 kamikaze attacks, could have sunk. Instead, she stayed afloat and became a legend. If you're watching this video, here's what you should take away. 1 ship, 336 men, 80 minutes that defied probability, physics, and every expectation. Japan threw 22 kamikaze planes at 1 destroyer. They failed, not because American ships were invincible. Laffey was nearly destroyed. She survived by margins measured in inches and seconds. Not because American sailors were superhuman. They were terrified, exhausted, and injured. Many wanted to abandon ship, but they didn't. They survived because they refused to accept defeat. Because their captain told them they weren't sinking, and they believed him. Because even when ammunition ran out, they kept fighting with rifles, handguns, and thrown wrenches. That's the lesson of USS Laffey. Survival isn't about having the best equipment or the perfect plan. It's about refusing to quit when quitting is the logical choice. 32 men died making that choice. 71 were wounded. Hundreds carried trauma forever, but the ship survived. And because she survived, other ships were saved. And because those ships were saved, the war moved forward. 1 destroyer. 80 minutes. Changed everything. The ship sits in Charleston Harbor today. You can visit her. Walk her decks. Touch the gun mounts. Stand on the bridge where Becton stood. And if you're quiet, if you pay attention, you can feel something. Not ghosts, though some claim they exist. But presence, history, sacrifice, 32 names on a memorial plaque. Each name represents a life cut short. A family destroyed. A future erased. But also courage, duty. The decision to fight when fighting seemed pointless. USS Laffey survived what no ship should survive. Not because of luck, though luck helped. Not because of technology, though good engineering mattered. She survived because her crew decided she would survive. And they fought through hell to make it happen. Japan attacked USS Laffey with 22 kamikazes. Expecting her to sink, they were wrong, and that ship, battered, broken, but still floating, proved that Americans don't quit. Not when the odds are impossible. Not when survival seems unlikely. Not ever. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when circumstances demand, Share this video. Tell someone about USS Laffey. Remember the 32 who died. Honor the 300 who survived. And never forget. The ship that refused to sink